Post-Congress, COVID zero continues and the repercussions continue as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only continuing, but it appears to be getting ramped up post the Congress. We did see Xi Jinping reinforce it at the party Congress, contrary to what some people were expecting. But we have seen a raft of moves, lockdown-like moves across the country. You've still got vast parts of the northwest, Xinjiang, for example, locked down, schools shut down in Guangzhou, parts of Wuhan as of last week shut down, and the situation in Zhengzhou, not a huge amount of cases, but definitely a couple inside that Foxconn iPhone factory, the biggest in the world. And it has gone into what we call a closed loop, where the workers are only allowed to go from their company dormitory to the production lines, tested regularly and kept inside a factory bubble, in essence. And it seems as though some of the workers don't want to be subject to those restrictions or are afraid of the outbreak inside the factory and are leaving the Foxconn factory. We're unsure if this is having any impact on production, but it appears as though they are sort of leaving, walking out of the factory, and some of those departures facilitated by the city government and governments where those workers live.
Emma, we didn't really see any more indication of where that COVID zero policy was going during the party Congress. So what seems to be the end game for Chinese leaders right now? And could we see more walkouts like this from different businesses?
Yeah, I mean, you've been seeing these closed loops put in place whenever there is a lockdown in a particular city. And they do enable a factory or a manufacturing site to keep going during a lockdown. But they do necessitate those workers being shut off from the outside world, shut off from their families. There have been incidents of unrest and violence in other factories, most notably another Apple supplier, Quanta, during the Shanghai lockdown some months ago. So you can likely anticipate a bit of pushback toward these arrangements that do deprive people of their families and effectively their ability to move around. And it does pose a risk for the continuation of the COVID zero policy. That said, Xi Jinping giving very little, if at all, any indication of how he intends to play this out. We spoke to a raft of experts last week, from economists to scientists to investors, and the consensus is that they will not ease this policy, particularly going into winter, because the risk is too high because of the low vaccination rates among China's elderly in particular. That the next sort of watch point is the National People's Congress, which is due to be held around March or April next year.